guys, Brandon Slay here from thirstgym.com. Today we're talking about exercise called the conventional rack pull versus bands. All right, for this exercise, you're going to want a barbell and a rack, and we're going to have the pin set at the lowest system that I've got here for this rack. But ideally, you can put your pins wherever you really want to for this particular exercise. And then for our band setup, I got the band pegs at the front and the back of the rack. And I've got them doubled around, so only half the bands are actually on the barbell. If you really wanted to up your band tension, you could certainly just put all 4 of them on there. But for a lot of people, just going with this double band system works pretty good. Gosh dang it, scrap that. 3, 2, 1. All right, for this exercise, you're gonna want a barbell and a rack with a rod and pipe based system or a safety catch based system. And you can put the rods, the pipes, the racks, whatever you want to call these, at the very bottom or wherever you want them to be set for your particular weak point in the exercise. And then for the band portion of it, I've got the bands from my band pegs here. So I got one band peg in the front, one band peg in the back. I've got half the band on here and the other half is still down here. So I've still got a good amount of band tension. If I wanted more, then I could just add more of that band or increase my band resistance by having a different band or a stronger band. Now, the key thing here ideally would be to have this start around knee height or slightly lower, is usually where you're going to want your rack pull positions. This rack doesn't go as low as I would particularly like. I have a lower rack that I use for that, but for a lot of taller athletes, this will be a good place to be. I'm pretty short, I'm 5'1", so I'm kind of an exclusion for this exercise, but you could use different racks to be able to get this way you want, or you could just stand on something to kind of get that elevation, depending upon what kind of rack you have. Outside of that, we're gonna take our normal conventional deadlift stance. So feet are just right underneath my hips, toes are pointed forward, keep my arms nice and long, chest tall, hinge back till I get to the barbell. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stand up as strong as I can, meeting my hips to the barbell to really work on that lockout strength. So from here, up, complete stop, and then again. Okay, so again, like I talked, this is kind of working the top half of the motion for me. Ideally, I'd want it set a little bit lower, about 2/3 of the way up my shin or slightly lower if you're trying to work on that transition around the knee. This is gonna work on your lockout strength, and as I mentioned, the transition part around your knee. The bands are gonna accommodate the resistance, so it's gonna get heavier as we continue to go. So it's gonna really work on your lockout and forcing you to really hammer your position of your deadlift. Now this exercise works great as a main movement, okay? And the reason I say that is because since we're pulling from racks, we're going to decrease range, or I'm sorry, a range of motion that is not a full range of motion, so it's decreased from the full range. As we're attacking a weak spot, we can really overload this for pulling from the pins because it can be a concentric only based exercise. So if I was doing this for one big heavy single, I'd go down, pull my rep, down, and be done. Obviously the rep would probably take longer, but the key here is to really have to focus on fighting through that position. Now, if you want to use it as a supplemental exercise or an exercise that can help build your deadlift after you've done your main deadlift movement, you certainly can. However, I will say that doing more than about 3 to 5 reps of this really becomes daunting. So it really just comes to the point where you're not having to work on that starting strength in that position. The goal here is to try to blow through that sticking point, work on that transition aspect of your deadlift, and you kind of lose that as the reps get higher. The heavier it becomes, the more you're not only mentally have to think about it, but actually have to get your body into position to work that range of motion. Now, the main difference I want to talk about between this and a block pull is that the way the weights are going to break are be completely different. And with a rack pull, you can kind of actually like wedge yourself into position a little bit more that you're not really going to be able to do from a block pull because of the way the weights are going to break off the blocks. So there are some subtle differences there, but in the most part, you're really just trying to work on the top half or more of the range of motion that's not from the floor. This would be a great exercise for you to do. So again, for your main movement, a top single or double, maybe even triple is kind of the sweet spot to be for an exercise like this. If you're doing this as a supplemental exercise, again, I still think 1 to 3 reps is a sweet spot to be. You might just leave some weight in the tank and really focus on that position through multiple sets and really focusing on getting that bar to break off the pins, and you should be in a good spot. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comment section below. Thanks. Have a great day.